Unitarian minister, the Reverend Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "Within a person is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one." In today's incarnation of his religion, Unitarianism, we covenant to affirm, promote, and respect the interdependent web of life of which we are all a part. As Reverend Emerson put it nearly 200 years ago, compound it how she will, star, sand, fire, water, tree, man, it is still one stuff and betrays the same properties. But what does that mean to each of us with our various theologies, which range from theistic, mystical, and faithful belief in a loving God all the way across the spectrum to an empirical, rational, humanist, and sometimes atheistic spirituality? No matter where we fall on this spectrum, UUs proclaim to share a belief in the interconnected web of life. For each of us, it's worth asking ourselves, what does our seventh principle mean for us within the context of our own daily lives? For the most part, everyday life doesn't leave us feeling all connected up with everyone and everything else. Instead, it seems chopped into trips to the grocery store and paying the bills and encountering all sorts of people that we don't understand and who do things we don't agree with or relate to. Sometimes we don't feel interconnected. We wonder about some of our elected representatives and if they really are part of the same whole that we are. We are not a creedal religion, but our seventh principle proclaims that we are all part of an interdependent web. Is this a radical idea or is it mundane? Is it a given? Or is interconnectedness a leap of faith? Whenever I say to someone the phrase, "the universe is all wired up," that's a Jennyism. When I say it, I feel like I'm going out on a limb, saying something hippy-dippy or unprovable. And yet my experience has led me to have faith that we are indeed all connected. It makes me tremendously happy to know that Unitarian Universalists have articulated our covenant to respect the interdependent web of life of which we are all a part. The seventh principle doesn't ask us if there is an interdependent web. It names it as a reality. We don't subscribe to creeds in our religion, but this covenant feels like an anchor. It's a statement of faith because unless you have an advanced understanding of quantum physics, which I don't, then really it's a leap of faith. Throughout the history of philosophy and religious thought, the idea of interconnectedness and holy oneness, that's with a capital H and a capital O, pops up again and again in Judaism and Christianity and Hinduism and Islam, as well as in ancient paganism, and now it is affirmed by science. It's called quantum interconnectedness. Interconnectedness is a tenet of one of my favorite theologies, religious naturalism. Religious naturalism sees humans as an interconnected and emergent part of nature. Of course, within all of these traditions that embrace interconnectedness, there are arguments within them, both for and against the idea of this interconnectedness being divine. And beyond that, there are arguments for and against the possibility of a personal God, one that knows us and that we know. Now, this is a rabbit hole too deep to go down for a 15-minute sermon, but it's one form of spiritual play that our faith not only allows, but encourages. And while we can read and learn and be swayed by one theologian or scientist or philosopher or another, Unitarian Universalism calls us through our first source to throw our personal experience into the mix of our discernment. Our first source is direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. I'm going to read it again because it's hard to absorb all that by ear. A direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. In 1938, Albert Einstein, the great mathematician and theoretical physicist, said it so well. He said, "The most beautiful and deepest experience a person can have is the sense of the mysterious." He said that the sense of the mysterious is, quote, "the underlying principle of religion, as well as of all serious endeavor in art and science." He said the sense that behind anything that can be experienced, there's something our mind cannot grasp, whose beauty and sublimity reaches us only indirectly and as a feeble reflection. This, he says, is religiousness. Einstein's thoughts are examples of the second source of our faith, prophetic voices. With all of Einstein's incredible intelligence and scientific discoveries, his work as a scientist didn't dissuade him from tuning into his direct experience of transcending mystery and wonder. In fact, he names it as the source of inspiration for all scientific inquiry. What a great container Unitarian Universalists have created for us, within which we can expand our minds and hearts and grow our spirituality. Our faith calls us to balance the yin of mystery and wonder and the yang of science and reason. It encourages us to consider grandiose ideas about the nature of being and then to come together to determine how to distill these big ideas into a praxis for how to survive and thrive in this life. I'm really grateful for this container. I'm grateful for these covenants which are intelligently and beautifully crafted to serve our process of revelation. But what does interconnected web of life mean to us personally? Do we really believe in this mystical interconnectedness? And if so, how does our belief help us to navigate this big, difficult thing we call life? I believe in it, and the reason why is not only because I can run religious, spiritual, and mystical beliefs, writings, and traditions through this rubric and find resonance, but also I believe that interconnectedness has shown up in my experiences in ways that seem beyond coincidence, ways that lead me to believe maybe there is no such thing as a coincidence. I have a million stories, but one that came to mind this week happened about 6 years ago. I was single, and I was dating, and I'd met a nice guy called Jason, who is a widower with a young son. And we'd gone on a couple of dates, and we'd gone on a couple of walks. And one day we arranged to meet at the park by my house so I could meet his darling little 3-year-old, the precocious red-headed firecracker called Kyle. So we went to the park near my house, and Kyle played, and then we walked back to my house, and my roommate Josh made us some crab cakes, and Kyle jumped on the trampoline with my dog Scooter, and he pretended to be a dog too, licking his paw. And Scooter and Kyle have the same color of red hair, and so of course I was enchanted, and I wondered to myself quietly if this nice guy I was getting to know and his adorable little boy and I had a future together. But it was too early to tell, and I was pretty gun-shy, so I didn't let myself go too far down that path of speculation. As Jason and Kyle left my house that day to walk back to their car parked down the road to the playground, Kyle, age 3, said something to Jason he had never said before and not since. He said, "Daddy, is that my new mommy?" Now, Kyle's a smart kid, and maybe it was just a coincidence because now I am his mommy. Maybe this story is confirmation bias, meaning I believe there's a higher consciousness connecting us all, that time isn't linear. So when Kyle said that, it proved what I already believe. Maybe. But any of us who have lived to adulthood have our fair share of stories of unexplained phenomena and things we can't quite explain. Given how frequently these things happen in my life and in all of ours, I've chosen to live my life with respect for beloved mystery. Einstein said, "In this sense, I am religious. To me, it suffices to wonder at these secrets and attempt humbly to grasp with my mind a mere image of the lofty structure of all that is." He suggests that we can be content with a humble acknowledgement of the vast unknown, and he calls this religiousness. I agree with him, and I like to highlight all the ways that I think like Einstein. Holding our openness to the forces that create and uphold life as a value in our first source can inspire us to push ourselves a little further, to engage in sacred curiosity, perhaps not to write off those coincidences so quickly, to ask, just how did the medieval mystic Hildegard von Bingen write descriptions of cultures she could never possibly have had exposure to in her lifetime? To wonder if there is a circle of connection that our music director, Leah, grew up in rural Ohio next door to my husband's Aunt Juanita. With the bittersweet acceptance of the limits of our knowledge and understanding comes a freedom from having to figure it all out and save the world. Einstein couldn't figure it out, so I don't think we're going to. We can't figure it out, and we can't single-handedly save the world, but we can use the container of our free faith to pursue our human quest for knowledge and enlightenment. And Unitarian Universalism isn't just a free-for-all. It's not a do-it-yourself, believe anything you want religion. It is a tool in our quest for revelation. It can serve as both a container and also the keys to our spiritual evolution. It contains us because it requires that we use reason and faith both walking hand in hand. It prevents us from getting off balance and demanding a science lab to tell us what to believe within the bounds of what can be empirically proven. Unitarian Universalism requires that we embrace science as our fifth source states, rejecting idolatries of the mind and spirit. And yet we also draw from our first source, direct experience of mystery and wonder. I would encourage you, as your minister, to look at the 6 sources and the 8 principles of our faith really carefully and appreciate what a work of loving care, vision, and thoughtful wisdom they are. They are today's guides, even as UUs all over the world are currently engaged in a conversation about revisiting them and maybe even chucking them out. I will be speaking about the Article 2 Commission in early February, and we'll learn more about that process. Because as brilliant as our principles and sources are, they are like the sand mandalas Tibetan monks meticulously create for hours and days and then blow away into the wind. They are here to serve us now. They aren't perfect, but they are useful. They are not proclamations, but they are pointers on our journey. May we use them as wise guides. May we take comfort in the limits of our understanding and our faith in interconnectedness. May we remain humble and open to the wonder of wise silence that connects us all. May this wonder spark our curiosity, our contemplation, and our humble joy at the mystery of being alive. Blessed be, and may it be so.